Okay, we're going to open the meeting, and we're going to, before we get into the reorganization, we're going to say the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Now, Adam, go ahead.
All right, so this meeting is being recorded and televised. Is anybody in the audience recording for future use? All right, seeing none. The 7 o'clock item on the agenda is reorganization. Mr. Brooks has been reappointed for an additional 5-year term. Congratulations. I will now take nominations for chair.
I'm going to nominate Paul Kosky for chairman.
Mr. Kosky is nominated. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, do you accept?
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All right, I'll turn the meeting over to you, Mr. Kosky.
All right, well, we need a nomination for vice chair at this time.
We'll nominate Wendy Steinhilber for vice chair.
I'll second that.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, musical chairs.
What do you do? Agenda thing. All right, just go up there. All righty. The bewitching hours here. All right, we have no A&Rs.
We do not.
Okay. 7 o'clock, we have a hearing. Town of Auburn School Department requesting a site plan approval under section 3.2.3.0. Institutional use of the Auburn zoning bylaws for property located at 10 Swanson Road, Auburn, Mass, map 32, parcel 20. And Mr. Ringard, you're here to present it?
We are. Rick Ringard from the Master Plan, School Master Plan Building Committee, and Joe Miller also with the committee, and Mike Andrade with Graves Engineering who did the engineering for us. This is sort of a continuation of the process of the new middle school being built on West Street. As a function of that, 2 of the elementary schools are being closed, and the Swanson Road will become a giant, not a giant, but a combined elementary school. And with that, we are doing some relatively minor renovations within the building to make it suitable for grades 3, 4, and 5. And we are also doing what we're here for, the site plan that Mike is going to go over in a minute, that we are doing to basically get the kids off the street into the onto the site and let them unload onto a center island, safely get into the building, and also cure the traffic problems that have been backing up at all the schools. This is a little bit different for us now because the elementary schools load and unload at the same time, where the middle school is a staggered unloading. So what we're trying to do here is get all the buses in at the same time, stacking the buses in. So with that, Mike, if you want.
Thank you. If you're not familiar with the site, it's located on the corner of Vine and Swanson. It's about 12.5 acres of land, although most of it is concentrated towards Swanson. The existing school buildings are here. There are 3 curb cuts on Swanson Road, here, here, and here. And there are ball fields on the west side of the school and to the north as well. And the rest is just wooded and very steeply sloped as well. So the project, as Rick mentioned, is to achieve a few goals to provide more bus stacking for drop-offs, improve the safety not only of vehicles passing through the site, but pedestrians and the kids as well, and to provide some additional parking. So to accomplish that, we're maintaining the existing eastern and western curb cuts, closing the center. This will be a one-way road through for bus drop-offs. There's enough stacking here for the 10 buses that they expect for the kids. So all the bus drop-offs will be right onto the sidewalk, and the kids can funnel into the school. This is where the existing parking lot is now. This will be basically repaved and restriped to be a little bit more efficient with handicap parking provided as well. Parent drop-off will be, which is now, back to this, now just basically they stack up along the end of the existing parking lot and kind of awkwardly drop off the kids into the school. This will have a dedicated parent drop-off lane which swings up around through this other parking lot to a drop-off sidewalk here where the kids can get off, cross, and then enter the school, and then parents can leave, circulate back out. This will be a teacher parking lot, so there won't be traffic in and out when the parent drop-offs are taking place. All of the work is proposed within currently developed areas. There's no additional tree clearing. There's no new building construction, obviously. It's all disturbed areas. This whole parking lot is within above a ball field now. And this is all basically just existing pavement that's going to be reconfigured. There is a drainage system for the new parking lot, making some improvements to the existing parking lot. There's an underground infiltration system that'll be constructed here with an overflow to the town's drainage system. There are, I think, 8 light poles we're putting in. Currently there's only one on the utility pole here, so the lighting is very poor for the parking. There's a photometric plan we submitted that demonstrates there's no spillage onto abutting properties, particularly to the west here, which is residential. Landscaping is fairly minor. We are proposing a few trees throughout, but the idea is to keep the sight lines open for safety of the kids, so we haven't proposed too much landscaping there. Other than that, I can take any questions you might have on the plan. I'll point out too, we did receive a few hours ago a letter from DPW. He had 7 comments. We really don't take issue with any of them. We'd be happy to make those changes. Board feel that's appropriate.
Now, with the parent drop-off, you have 2 lanes that they're dropping them off from?
The drop-off lane is here.
Yeah.
There's kind of like a drive-through on a fast food restaurant or a coffee station. You have an escape lane. So if someone has already dropped off their kid and someone's pulled in front of them, rather than wait for the car to clear out,
Okay.
they have a lane to be able to pull out and leave, so there's no
Okay.
congestion in there.
All right, so they're not going to be dropping off from that left-hand
No,
lane?
drop-offs are restricted to
The right-hand
along the
lane.
curb.
Okay.
And there's teachers that'll be posted and staff posted out in the parking lots to make sure people traffic circling the way that it's supposed to be.
Through the chair, there's no addition to the footprint of the school itself,
No,
No.
no. Everything is within the original building.
and as far as the total paved area for parking, has that increased by 20, 50 cars?
There's about 70 parking spaces now. There's people park outside of those spaces. They cram in a few here and there, but there's 70 striped spaces. This plan proposes a total of 103, so there's 33 more. And again, we're segregating, keeping the teachers back here for the most part, and drop-offs and visitors.
And how did that affect the stormwater drainage?
Because there is an increase in impervious as a result of this project, mainly for this parking lot here. There are a number of catch basins in this parking lot along this drive, and we're collecting, attenuating, and infiltrating that additional runoff through a system under this parking lot.
Now, there was some concerns about snow removal. Have those been resolved?
We had a number of meetings with DPW staff to hear their concerns about not the overall project and layout and snow removal. We've accommodated their requests as far as snow removal, with the exception of the one comment we just saw today. We had before, this was going to be an entire sidewalk, so you could do drop-offs here. Their concern was there's no place to put snow in that kind of middle area, so we pulled the sidewalk back and left this as just grassed area, so you have some place to pile snow between the lots. That was a request the DPW had.
That concrete walkway, you pull that back, you've moved it, you haven't eliminated it, right?
No,
Yeah.
it used to be, this entire island here used to be an
Just the
entire
concrete,
walk,
okay.
yes.
Now, does that concrete walk go all the way down past where all the buses? How far does that go?
Concrete walk starts here at the
Yeah.
end of this drive
Yeah.
and comes down, it spurs off to where the parent drop-off is,
Okay.
down to here where there's a crosswalk. There's an existing bituminous walk
Oh,
here that's
okay.
gonna remain.
All right,
We're adding a new sidewalk down to the lower level.
okay. Yeah. And you're blocking off that lower level?
That lower level is gonna have a gate on it, yes, to
Okay.
control traffic.
That was part of the DCG comments, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The gate, the sidewalk, and I think the guardrails on the backside.
And so you've addressed all of these things that came from the engineering department?
Well,
Oh, you are? Or you just got it?
we just got it a few hours ago, literally, so I haven't even had a chance to root with my client, to be honest. We just talked about it in the hallway,
I
but
don't think we have any issues with it.
Okay.
Whatever he wants, we can do.
Is the lighting zero at the property line?
the lighting is zero at the property line, yes.
There's a calendar, a candle thing. drawing.
Last page of the plan.
Last page of
I
it.
can flip them here if you like. Yeah. I think you can see on there.
We can pull it up for you behind you, Ronnie.
Right here.
And it's not within our purview, but the money's available to do this
It is.
So here's your lot line here.
without going back to the taxpayers.
The lot line's actually up here.
Oh, is it up further?
This dash line.
Through the chair?
Yes.
Mike, can we go back to the, just the general layout? Yeah. When Don came to DCG, he had a bus stacking plan.
Yes.
Do you have a copy of that?
Yeah, I don't have it with me.
Okay.
It's a layer we have in the drawing.
And that's fine. The reason I ask is because we had a discussion about it. It seemed as though they were able to stack 8 buses and 2 specialty vans. And he represented that the school would most likely be using 10 buses. And there was some discussion about having, in that island between the driveway and Swanson Road, some sort of, no, back towards the entrance. Yeah, having like a bus pull-off so that if the 2 remaining buses showed up while other buses were unloading, they would have a place to pull off, allow for the pass-through lane, and then they would move up and dispense their children, I don't know what the appropriate term is, onto the safe sidewalk. And also there was some discussion about operationally, sometimes the smaller buses are able to sort of alter their timeline a little bit and show up later. What was the final resolution of that, or was there one?
I think that the intent is to have the eight big buses
Okay.
lined up, and the 2 minis will go down into the lower area, which will drop those kids off into the cafeteria. In a perfect world, that's the intent of.
Okay, because it was represented to us that we suggested the gate to prevent vehicle access parents sort of deciding to come in and go down there. So in theory, that gate was supposed to be locked as of the time that drop-off would be beginning. So, I mean, drop-off is 8 o'clock, is that? Or 8:15?
Yeah, somewhere.
So, by 7:45, the gate would be locked as a way to prevent, because there was some discussion about children coming down and entering at the side, because that's where the cafeteria is, and the discussion was, if you're going to do that, you need the sidewalk and you need to prevent vehicular
Right.
access during that time.
Right.
So, I don't know that it's a critical issue, but I think that this whole design is intended to keep the buses from stacking on the street like they have to now. And so if we defeat that with those 2, then we've done all of this in sort of
There's
a
no
vacuum.
intention to have buses stacking on the
Yeah,
street.
yeah, and I know that that's not the intention, but, seeing this every morning out here
Yep,
and, knowing what the potential is,
yep.
we just want to make sure that was the one thing that kind of, we kicked around a little
They
bit.
were very aware of what happens out here every
Yeah.
day and what happens at almost
Yeah.
at every
Yes.
school every day.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Add it.
So when the small buses come, you're gonna move them down into that?
Well, I think that's certainly, how do I want to say it,
It's an option?
It's an option.
It's an
and
option,
I was
right.
going to add too, there's another option too. We have this kind of large hatched area here, which is adequate for bus to pull in, a short bus, mind you,
Okay.
and let kids off. They can cross here and
Yeah.
over.
But then they're going between the buses, they're going between the buses there.
Well, yeah, that's true.
And,
I mean,
and it's the short bus,
we provided as much stacking as we can on the site, to be honest.
yeah.
The driveway itself is 26 feet wide. I mean, the goal is not to do double stacking, but it is, the width is available if that becomes an option or a need,
Yeah.
I should say. But there are areas, and this is probably maybe the safest area for to have a short bus drop-offs.
I think as explained to us, I didn't make that DCG
Mhm.
meeting, but that gate was really for the kids going out to recess, and while school was operating on, as the kids come out that lower entrance and go up to the field, the idea was that there would be no traffic down in there.
Well, I mean, I think that there's also the thought, and I think that you can only control human behavior so far. Mom's late for work. She comes in the far entrance, pulls in. I can't find a place to park. She's dropping Johnny off right at the door, pushing him out, because then she knows she doesn't have to worry about him crossing the street. There's no teachers down here for the most part. So the idea was to eliminate the potential for someone to decide to do that. And again, that was sort of why we talked about maybe even just putting a double bus length, 10 or so foot cutout into the island between right in that area, just sort of like a secondary escape lane, so they could sort of just pull over and still provide that width if necessary. If it's something that you don't feel is operationally necessary, isn't going to work with the plan, if there's a justification for it, it's up to the board to look at it and decide. It was just the one thing that I didn't see. Everything else we talked about in DCG appears to be on the plans. That was the one thing that seemed still up in the air.
Yeah, and that certainly is an option too. And again, similar to this, the kids would have to cross.
Well, the idea is not that they actually get off. The idea is that the bus
like
waits.
a holding area.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
as one bus pulls out, the one that's in front pulls up and
They can pull in.
drops, and then you keep moving, and it's really just okay, we have a place for them to sit and wait where we're not creating a potential blockage, and we don't have children trying to cross the street or crossing the bus stack.
And the other option too, and we haven't even discussed this together, is there may be potential to use some of the parent drop-off lane, sign an area or something at a certain spot, or bus drop-off only, and that may be difficult to enforce, I guess, but it's a possibility.
Yeah, I think that if you were to do that, the smaller buses would be operationally my preference. Engineering-wise, that's.
I'm talking about the small buses.
Oh yeah,
not
okay.
full-size buses.
Yeah. That would be my concern. Is a smaller bus only takes up 1.5-ish car spaces, and they're putting off smaller numbers of children, so it would be a more expeditious
And
exchange.
they can navigate the turns
Yeah,
in the parking lot
yeah.
without any trouble.
So you have enough parking in here for all the teachers, I take it? Okay. All right, when is this parking lot going to be utilized?
It's going to be utilized as a general parking area
Okay.
during the day, and then functions at night.
Okay, mostly fun. So in other words, this isn't going to be filled up when the buses are coming in, usually?
No, the intent, the teachers and all that would be there.
Should be already
before
there.
Should be already there,
Right.
it should be in the back lot.
All right, so this should be mostly for functions after school, and if somebody's coming in for a parent-teacher meeting or something?
If I may, at the DCG meeting, and unfortunately none of you guys were there, the discussion also was that parent volunteers, paraprofessionals,
During the day?
perhaps lunch staff that aren't there for the required time that teachers get there would most likely be parking there, and there may be additional teacher overflow for transient teachers who work at multiple schools. So it would be a functional parking lot during the day. It's not something that they need all of the
Right.
spaces for, but it does provide a need outside of the teacher parking up in the back.
Yeah.
Will you show just do the route with your pen where the buses are coming in and the
Sure.
exit?
Buses would be coming in here, so this is just
Yep.
west of Vine Street.
Yep.
Coming here, this is one way. They would, the first bus would stack at the end, and would all stack behind it, and let the kids off, and then turn left and out, and whichever way they go.
And that's within the property of the school, that's not going onto the little dirt road?
No,
No,
the
no,
dirt road
no.
is up in here. The property
No.
line is this boulder line on the site plan here. But no, we're not using that.
And you got all the radiuses, the right up and the left hand.
Yes. Ample turning space.
Now, is there an alternate exit to this for emergency vehicles?
Is Rock Ave open
Rock
to get
Ave
out?
open, how can you get to it?
Rock Ave's
It's
Yeah,
over
it's
here.
parallel with
Yeah.
Sort of here, and this,
Swanson.
I don't know if this is part of it. It's
No,
not-
Rock Ave is actually, you see the lower parking lot?
Yeah.
That shows up on
It runs behind the school. So the lower
It's
parking
parallel
lot, where we
with
were
Swanson.
talking about the gate,
here.
you
Yeah.
see that, the arm that comes off the back?
Yeah.
That goes to Rock Ave.
Okay.
So Rock Ave dead ends at, is there a gate there, chief?
I don't believe there is.
No, it's just kind of busted. No one really wants to drive over it.
So to answer your question, I believe that's still available, correct me if I'm wrong, for emergency access.
Yep.
Well, any questions?
No, I think they covered it.
So, what they're looking for?
As long as the, look at the site plan approval,
plan
as long as
approval?
the,
Meet these,
as long as the
meet the
approval
Right.
conditions include the
questions that were asked by the
coil,
engineering
Oh, coil,
department.
yep.
Yeah. All right, so you're going to address those things, right? So if we grant the approval, what we're gonna do is have usual conditions. Now, there was concern about where they were gonna store the stockpiles of, I would imagine, dirt and stuff.
We talked about that, the existing baseball field, which is on one of the drawings here,
Okay, that's in the back.
would be the stockpile.
Okay,
And then contractor parking would be down in that lower parking lot between the building
okay.
and access for the contractor would only be from Swanson Road.
Swanson Road, okay. And the building's gonna be closed while this is going on,
There may
except for
be
the roof?
one custodian there periodically, but there isn't much going on this summer, specifically because of this.
Okay, so you're doing it this summer?
Yes,
Is it gonna be ready for,
it is.
it is?
Doing it.
Contract actually says August 15th.
August 15th of this year? It's gonna be ready. Okay. Any comments from the audience on this?
Rick, you
that's
doing-
pretty good. There were
you doing
90
ins-
96,
I'm sorry?
Anything inside? No.
We are
96
doing,
people notified.
Yeah, nobody's here.
we are doing inside, redoing the kitchen, redoing the general office area, and then some classroom doors and things like that. Just a general theater and
It
everything.
was in pretty good shape.
It is, yeah, it's in real good shape, actually. It was actually built for 2 classes, and now there's 3 in there, so it's gonna work out well. And as a part of this, Mary D. and JB will be phased out.
Empty.
So
This'll
we solved the
be
traffic problem.
Second, what grades will it be?
3, 4, 5.
3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
You gotta buy one of them.
Then Package Org and Bryn Mawr are gonna be kept open.
All right, make a motion to close the meeting.
Second?
Okay? All those in favor?
Aye. Make a motion to approve the site plan approval with the conditions as discussed.
So let's go over the conditions and make sure I've got them correct. Construction hours, what are we looking at? I mean, we vary between 7 and 8 to start and 3 and 5 to close, Monday to Friday.
7, our preference, if it's okay with you guys, would be 7 to 5, 5 days a week, 7 to
Okay.
noon on Saturday.
Generally, Saturday is 8 to noon.
8 to noon, yeah.
That's fine.
People sleep in.
That's fine. Yep.
Okay, so 7 to 5 and 8 to noon on Saturday.
No Sundays and
No
holidays.
Sundays and holidays.
Agreed.
Holidays being bank holidays.
Yep.
You abide by the approvals of all other boards and commissions. The proposal is built to the approved plan, which we have. All construction vehicles will enter from Swanson Road. It'll be probably written differently than that, but that'll be the spirit of it.
Yep.
All DPW concerns are satisfied, and the engineering division deliver a clean bill of health. Was there anything that I missed?
I don't think so.
What was that last part?
That the,
Engineer-
basically the DPW gives a letter that says they satisfied us.
Okay, after it's over, you mean?
No.
After we make
okay.
the
That
revision.
you
Okay.
that you take these concerns, you
Yep.
answer them,
Yep,
you resubmit a plan to
Gotcha.
the engineering division, and they
Okay.
write a letter that says, yep,
Okay.
that meets our, what we
Yep.
were looking for.
and that's items 1 through 7?
7. Yep.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all.
Yeah, I would think. Anything else?
I don't-
Anything else?
I don't know of anything else. You, Mr. Brooks?
No.
No? All right. So I'd entertain a motion.
I believe Mr. Rothman made the motion,
Okay.
and I
to accept it
believe,
with those conditions.
I don't, was it seconded?
Yes,
Mr. Brooks?
Seconded by Mr. Brooks. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you, neighbor.
Chief, do you have anything after this?
No, somebody else.
Do you mind if we do the 141, since we have, I'm assuming you're all here for Packagug Acres? No one here for cisterns? Okay,
Okay.
so that
Yeah.
might be the,
All right, why don't we do that then? Discussion for Packagug, 141 acres, right turn only exit, concerned of the Highland Street residents. And you're the residents, somebody going to be a spokesperson?
Mr. Chair, if I may?
Yeah.
As you may remember the last meeting, the neighbors did come and express their concerns about the right turn only leading to cut-throughs through Highland to return to Rockland Road or north. The board did make a indication that they individually or collectively were going to go and do a site visit and observe the conditions, and I think that the residents are here tonight to sort of hear the feedback from the board. I know, unfortunately, Mr. Weaver and Ms. Steinhilber aren't here. Mr. Weaver's been in favor of the two-way turning exit the entire way through. I don't have a formal indication from Ms. Steinhilber, but I think that depending on what you three gentlemen have to say about that may inform what the residents choose to do going forward.
Well, once you.
Well, I went there and looked, and I know there's a lot of sight distance coming to the left, from the left, going up towards Dooley's, but still the cars are at a pretty high rate of speed sometimes there. I know how the residents feel on Highland Street. I just don't think that after taking a right turn that there'll be that many people that'll be taking a left back up Highland Street to circle around.
I also, I went down there and I spent Saturday and I went again on Sunday. These are days that there should be tons of kids playing in the street. I didn't see that. I saw more cars parked in the street than I saw kids playing in the street. As far as the right turn only coming out of the daycare center. Again, we didn't do this, or I didn't make the recommendation to do this with any intent to create you harm. The only reason that we did this is to try to prevent a problem with a parent picking up a child coming out onto Auburn Street trying to cut traffic and get slammed by another car. My position on this hasn't changed. As far as I'm concerned, I'm strictly looking for a right turn coming out of the daycare center. One thing that what we had discussed is by shrinking the opening down to, what was it, 18 feet? You wanted
18 from 24.
feet. I'd like to go back to the, I'd like to go back to the 24 feet opening.
That's not possible.
Can't do it, we already signed it.
Oh, you signed the thing?
The decision's made. If
All right,
the
that's
applicant chose to make a request for a modification,
Okay,
they
that's
could
good.
do that,
That's
but
fine, that's fine, no problem at all. again, my position stays the same. So,
It is a dangerous stretch of road. I know, because the previous fire chief had to cut me out of my car there. A woman hit me and totaled my car and hit me so hard that I went right across the street sideways 30 feet and took a pole down with the other side of my car. So I know how dangerous it is, and that's one of the reasons that I said, no left turn because you're going to be pulling in front of cars that are speeding. And I know they speed because I had a totaled car to prove it. So that's where I am. And that's actually, as they say, it's already been signed, and the only one that can change it at this point is the gentleman who has it approved can come back in and ask us to change it. Or
And we could
request
vote
a
to
change.
reconsider.
Well,
We could vote to
but
reconsider.
I believe in conversations I've had, if the board were of a mind that they felt they were willing to change based on the concerns of the residents, the applicant would make that filing. Without that sort of understanding, I don't think that he's looking to move his project along.
Yeah.
The residents, as we discussed the last time, still have the opportunity to put together an appeal. Again, not a short or inexpensive proposal, but it is their right as people of interest.
And that was our concerns.
And the reason for making, I think, the opening wider is in case it's there in case there was ever a decision to make another change to the site. As long as the...
Oh yeah, I mean, I think if he came
Agreed.
back and
I'd
asked for
rather see it.
reconsideration, he would look to open the exit to the 24 feet and provide the two lanes.
In case
but-
it was gonna be a two-way or it was
Correct.
gonna be left turn out.
we wanted to leave the door open though,
Just
and
wanna leave
just in case down the road we saw a reason to make a reconsideration of the right turn only to a left turn, then it would already be in place.
So they could
And you may want to give them the opportunity to
talk to...
speak.
Well,
Yeah.
anything
no
to say at this point?
No.
No.
Just, we're disappointed.
Yeah, well,
And we did see you, sir, drive up the street the other night. It was 7:30. We told you we have little ones. A lot of them are going to bed at 7:30. They're in having their baths.
Yeah, I saw you standing by a car talking to somebody else out there.
No, that was a neighbor. I was on
Okay.
the porch when I
Oh,
saw you
okay,
drive
yeah.
by.
Well, I drove by more than once. You must have been inside the other time, but I drove by a couple of times. And that road, by the way, going down to, I wouldn't even want to take that road. Going down, weaving in between the cars and then taking a left on Wetherill Street. Is that Wetherill Street right there?
Pearl.
It slows the traffic down.
It certainly,
That's why a lot of
it
us
certainly
park on
does.
the street is just
I can't see
that.
why anybody would even consider making that a shortcut. I really don't. I mean,
Because
that,
it's the first left. It's
well,
first
maybe the
off
first
Market
left,
Street.
but there's a lot of other ways they can get back. But anyway,
People are not gonna go on Perry. They're
if
not
there's
gonna
no
go on
other,
Perry. They're gonna go straight on to Highland. It's the first road. Why wouldn't they take it? Why wouldn't they take it?
I know.
It's the easiest
How
way.
in a way would they go?
What other way would they go? What, you
go down
still
and take a right and go back up Swanson Road.
yeah.
Go all the way around?
Go to Eastwood.
To go to Rockland?
They can go to Eastwood.
to go the other way?
Absolutely.
I
To
don't
go
buy
down
that.
Rockland, they
If
would
they
all
go
the
up
way
there and go
Livingston,
down to,
around
and go down Oxford Street, sure.
It doesn't make any sense.
If they're going back up, what do you mean? Everybody that goes
You're
there is gonna
take
come
a
back
right turn going that way.
and go, and they're gonna go back,
And
and
then
they're all gonna go
that
on
way.
Rockland Road?
How do they get back that way?
They go down, they take a right on, is it
They're
Swanson?
gonna go up Vine, take a right onto Swanson.
Well,
Take a right
go up
on?
to the end of
All the way-
Swanson, come all the way down Bryn Mawr,
Well,
to
you
get
know
down to
something?
Rockland.
Well, that's...
How many
Okay,
people are gonna do that? We don't even know. You can't tell me, okay? There's no way you can tell me, okay? How many people are gonna exercise that Highland Street? You don't know that.
Sir,
can't tell us.
Jim,
you don't know
I think
how many
it's time to
people
close the
are
discussion.
not gonna go up Highland
We're
Street.
gonna close the discussion. We're gonna close the discussion at this time. And as I said, we decided at the last meeting and we signed the proposal so that at this point, right now, it's a right turn only there and the exit is 17 feet wide.
Would you approach the applicant to see if he would be in agreement to do the 24-foot.
I
What do you
can
want me to
certainly, I can certainly contact him.
Yeah, that would be the only thing you could do. You could contact the applicant through Adam and see if he wants to reopen it or ask for a modification. But other than that, at this point, there's nothing we can do. Unless he asks us to.
Do I have a motion to close the meeting?
Okay. Can I have a motion to close the
It's a discussion, I don't need anything.
You don't need it.
Yeah,
No.
okay, very good.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll wait a couple seconds till Adam is
The
there.
thing is, there's not gonna be 10,000 people coming in and
No.
out of here. It's not like it's non-stop traffic all day long.
Right.
You know
People
something.
coming
And
in.
everybody
I'm not
that's
sure how
dropping
many
the kids
people
off.
there
You've got
would be
one.
on a daily basis. It's gonna be the same thing almost every day.
Yeah.
That some, I thought he said, were coming in the bus.
Buses. There are buses coming
So,
in and he's got
maybe
what,
there's
70 or 80 people? And so if he
30
brings,
people.
yeah,
And out of 30 people, just say a quarter of them went that way.
Yeah.
Because they're not all gonna live down that way.
no.
That's
So
a smaller
that's
section of
10
town. That's
people.
the smaller
Yeah,
housing section of town down to the right.
so that would be 10 people at the most. And it would be during, when kids are in school.
And it's a
My
turn.
concern, okay, is the safety of the parent with the little kid or two little kids in the back seat strapped in a chair, okay, getting hit broadside by some inconsiderate driver coming down at 50, 60 miles an hour. That's my concern, okay?
Well, as I say, I
You
had
can't
my-
please everybody, it's impossible to please everybody, okay?
As I say, I was total there, so. All right,
All
Adam.
right, where do we go from here?
Wait for Adam to come back in.
Well, he might be sometime out there.
All right,
Tell him how to set up an appeal.
yeah. Great, okay.
You might even make the blog on this one.
I don't care. I've made it before. Many times over the 11 years that I was chairman of the school
What's the
building
next,
committee.
what's the next on there?
Fire chief.
Fire chief, okay.
Well, Chief, you might as well come up and sit down and introduce yourself, and hopefully Adam will be in here in a couple of
Not a
minutes.
problem,
We don't
Mr.
want to
Chair.
keep you any longer than we have to.
Not a problem at all.
Is it baseball game on tonight?
I have no clue. They're not going to win anyway, so.
There you go.
Okay. We have a discussion at 7 o'clock with the fire chief on cistern language for rules and regulation. And
Sure, if you'd like, I can wait if you'd like,
yeah,
or,
I would just soon have Adam in here.
okay, that's not a problem at all.
Well, would you mind if I asked him a question about this? Because we don't really know how long Adam's gonna be.
Well,
Would you have a problem with that? or-
no, I don't.
Okay,
It's-
I'm just gonna ask a question. We can go over it again, but
Well, we'd have to, is it a discussion only?
it's just a
Yeah,
discussion, yeah, it's just a discussion. You've got on section M of the location and construction of the cistern. Okay, it says pre-existing historically stable natural water supply with an equivalent of 20,000 gallons and a flow of 750 gallons per minute are acceptable. What, could you explain that?
Sure. What I mean when I say a historically stable water supply is take Auburn Pond behind the fire station. That's a historically stable water supply. It's been there 100 years. It's not going to dry up tomorrow. It has adequate flow that we can draft out of. And when we put a 1,500 gallon a minute pumper in there, we can pump and sustain 1,500 gallons a minute with that water source.
And not having any damage to your pumps because of low water supply,
That is
et
correct.
cetera, okay?
Adam's taking the minutes though, Jim, so we gotta let him do that. That's what
Okay.
I wanted to
All
wait
right,
for.
go ahead.
Oh, I can catch it online.
Okay,
I
all right.
So anyway, okay, so so the 20,000 gallon cistern will provide enough flow rate so it won't damage your pumps.
That is correct.
Is that correct?
So if, and just, go ahead, and I'll let you finish with your question.
Well, again, the problem, we got a lot of issues here, and the issues that I think that you probably can address, okay, as needed. The issues is the builder is going to have to take X number of square feet in a prime location to put the cistern. Number two, he is going to have to build a cistern, and hopefully it's going to pass all the inspections from the fire department and its representatives to make this thing work. One thing we ran into here, I took a copy of the last paper you drew up, which we had discussed, and I gave it to a contractor. And I asked the contractor, if somebody handed you this paper here and you were to build the cistern according to all these 3 or 4 pages or 5 pages of specifications, what would you estimate the cost to be? You know what he told me? More than $50,000. More than $50,000. And I'm saying to myself, wow, that's quite a hit. Is there something, or could you check to find out what the actual cost to have a cistern installed under today's prices by a licensed contractor to construct this cistern?
I can certainly do that research for you. I will tell you that I have over the past year. I've spoken with 4 separate developers, and I will just say that none of them gave me a number of over 30. But I would certainly be happy to.
And one of these guys was pretty reputable, and but he said, you know, there's a lot of specifications that have to be met on this cistern, to the lettering of everything, and the pipes having to be a certain character for the PVC pipes, the grading. It's quite a project to make one of these. And then another problem that I had was in the surety. You have a cash surety here in the amount of $5,000 per 10,000 gallons, which would automatically be a cash surety bond for the town to be held, and it would be $10,000. Do you think that's a reasonable? Do you think that's a reasonable amount of a surety bond for that particular? Now, say he needs 2 cisterns because of the development of the project, etc. And we, as a planning board, say, yeah, you're right, he needs 2 cisterns. What we're trying to do is not bankrupt the project before it gets going.
And I understand that. That's why at the end of the 12 months, once it works, they get their money back 100%. So that there's no loss to the developer.
Well, other than he's out $10,000 for a full year.
Well, and I'll say the same thing that I said a year ago when I first appeared before you. You know, when these developers come before us and they're proposing $7 and $8 million development projects, if they can't afford $10,000 to be set aside to ensure that the cistern works for 12 months, they probably shouldn't be entering into an $8 million development project.
Are you saying they get the 10,000 back too at
Yes.
the end of the year?
Yes.
Yeah.
So they get it back?
They get
It's-
it back.
It's only held for a year?
Correct.
It's never taken?
That is correct.
Well, it's never taken
Un-
unless they
unless-
fail to, unless there's a failure and they fail to make the corrected amendments.
Now, they would be responsible for installing the cistern, as the way you want to propose this. They're all going to be minimum of 20,000 gallons
Correct.
to more, to 30, 40, depending on how big the development is.
Correct.
And would be in different locations within the development.
Depends.
Because if you've got a big development on a
Right.
half a mile long stretch, it's like when we were going to do across the street.
Auburn Hills.
The Auburn Hills would have needed about several of them, but there's some water supply there anyways.
Mhm. And I think that the other thing is giving someone this and saying you need to build this on an existing increases the cost. When you're doing a new subdivision on raw land, that land is already turned, they're already digging, so a lot of the cautious portions of the site work go out the window because they're not digging next to an already installed road. There isn't already installed homes. This goes in at the same time, similar to if they were installing a water or sewer line. You know, they haven't done the heavy detailed construction. This is one of the first things they're going to put in.
Yeah, the thing that, like I live, there's 28 houses in my area, okay? Of the last two lots sold, one was 140 and the other one was $143,000. So how much land is each one of these things going to take up? So if he has to have a half acre of land for this, we have 1 acre lot minimum in my area. So if he has to have a half acre land, that's $70,000 worth of land that he has to take out of his project for one.
Through the chair. If we can just sort of go back to the beginning, we kind of jumped into it. And just to address a couple of the points that were said earlier, I don't want to make this bigger than it needs to be, and I'm fearful that is what's happening. If you look at any of the planning board regulations that you have, pick one, anything that you have in your rules and regulations, and you read it, to the average person it is going to appear cumbersome. It's going to appear that it's, you know, we got to climb mountains in order to accomplish the things that this board wants accomplished. This is no different. This reads very similar to any other policy that is in the regulations. Okay, the map that I presented to you in the fall, when I presented that map, of just looking at Fire District 7, the 25 communities just in Fire District 7, with the exception of Auburn and Uxbridge, and the city of Worcester, because they're 100% municipal water. Every other community, okay, so 22 other communities, either have bylaws in place or have cisterns in place because the planning board required them at the time of the installation. So there's 22 other communities that surround us that this goes on an annual basis. And most likely the contractor that you spoke with, or contractors all around, they've put these in other projects. Unless they're doing projects exclusively in Auburn, they've installed these before. We're talking about a container that would fit in half the size of this room. So we're not talking about a device here that's going to take up a half acre of land. 20,000 square feet, the dimension of this box is essentially the width of this room. And probably from where I am right now to that back wall and the height, this is the size that we're talking about. This is not, and it's concrete. It's such a simple installation. And last May when I was here, I showed you some pictures of it. It can be plastic or concrete. But we're talking about a concrete box with 3 pipes coming out of the top. I don't want to complicate it more than it needs to be. It's such a simple installation.
Then it gets replenished by...
It can be replenished in one of two ways. It's either replenished by the stormwater system, the drainage would replenish it, or
So that would have to
it's
be
maintained by the
filtered,
fire department.
That has to be filtered and cleaned and...
Yes, I
before it
can
goes in.
tell you that both the concrete or the plastic, but the concrete, it's lined. There's very little loss. I know of communities that don't have a foot drop in a dry hydrant in 3 years in terms of evaporation.
I did ask you the last time now, and I don't know if you were gonna look into it or ask us something, but how do they keep it hygienic, you know? In other
They're treated with
not being
they're treated with chlorine on chlorine or bleach on an annual basis. It's a gallon that gets dumped into the top, and that's it. But again, this isn't something that I'm anticipating. I don't envision. I'm here trying to be proactive in the event that a development comes in, and we've talked about this before. The majority of the land that's undeveloped is outside the hydrant district. I'm trying to be proactive in terms of making sure that if a development goes in, we have an adequate water supply in the event that something happens. I'm not anticipating 100 of these things in town. In the course of my career and here, if 2 of these go in or 3 of these go in, I would be surprised. But I want to make sure that we're being proactive in the approach.
Now, on an average ranch, okay, average size one, and it gets on fire, how far does 20,000 gallons go? Is that enough that usually would put it out, or do you still need
you had,
tankers and
well,
other-
if you had a home that's 20 by 20 by 30, it's length times width times height divided by 3, that gives you the total gallonage per minute that you would need. It probably comes out roughly to about 8,000 to 10,000 gallons of water in order to fight a fire
and put
with
it
well
out.
involvement with that in that size structure.
And a house at the end of that little watering at best is probably totaled anyway.
Correct.
Yeah.
Or you'd wish it was like
And,
mine.
another, we're trying to make this work, okay? But there are questions that I don't feel as though we should do it and then have to come back to it.
I agree with you 100%.
It's gonna take us a few times to look
It's
at
gonna
it. At
take,
least
yeah,
we're going through it.
I'm not trying to,
Well,
I'm not trying to discourage this, okay? In fact, I'm the one that originally told you
Mhm.
to make it go through, along with the other board members. Another thing, inspections you have here, the fire department or authorized representatives make inspections of the system prior to the backfill acceptance and everything. I would want you to put in there that the plumbing inspector, okay, most of it's plumbing.
And time it town engineer.
What section are we on?
You're on
Eight.
section 8, 8A.
Okay.
Does that make sense to you, though?
I can certainly contact the plumbing inspector and have a conversation about him, and I certainly don't want to speculate on what he's going to say.
You could work with him.
We're again, I just want to make sure that we're talking about a box with a cover on it, and there's 3 pipes that go through the top of the box that dead end in the box. There are actually no.
I don't know if this actually falls under the
Yeah,
plumbing code.
it's not really plumbing. It's well, you can
The
kind
vent and,
you can kind of see it in the photo, like the cartoon photo with the blue water in it. There's a vent pipe and there's one suction pipe
This
that's
mouse is the worst.
that's
Looks like
laid
my
in there.
septic system.
Yeah, it looks more like a
Looks like
septic
septic
system,
system.
yeah. But okay, so that falls, you could ask them, but that falls outside of the plumbing
It would.
inspectors.
And through the chair, when we talk about inspection, what the inspection is once the piping is hooked up, it's a matter of us coming, hooking a pumper up to it, and just testing the system to make sure it works. It either does or it doesn't. And if it does, we're good. If it doesn't, maybe there's a leak somewhere, maybe there's a cracked pipe, whatever the case may be. It either works or it doesn't. It's either approved or
This
it's
is,
not.
another thing too, that you brought up, 23 or 24 local towns in this area have already adopted a similar policy to this. How many of those 20 or 24 towns have on-call fire departments? This town has a full-time fire department, okay? Which I'm sure is going to reduce the amount of time it takes to get to the house, number one, and therefore it should reduce the amount of gallonage needed to put the fire out because you're there in 4 minutes or 5 minutes.
You are absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct.
So,
You still,
But-
but when you come, you're still gonna come with a truck that's full of water too.
Well,
How much do those trucks hold?
Well, it depends. You know, the lead pumper that's out the door has 750 gallons on it. We do have a tanker that has 2,500 gallons of water on it.
Oh. So
you
you
know,
mostly rely on, because that's not enough water for
the
much.
most water that we're going to have at the scene of a fire with all of our equipment is 4,000 gallons of water.
So you most rely on hooking to another pond or some other water
Or-
supply,
or a-
keep bringing
or a
other
hydrant.
pumpers
That
in
is
or a
correct.
hydrant or something.
And I don't disagree with your statement at all. We have very good response times. We have a skilled fire department, and you know, we keep a lot of fires small. So I'm not going to disagree with that statement. But big fires happen.
Oh.
And you know, I want to make sure that as a department and as a town, that we're not behind the 8 ball, that if something big happens in an area that's outside the hydrant and I need more than 4,000 gallons of water, there's a safer way to do that operation without having to put tankers on the road coming from, you know, different locations coming back and forth, if we can have an on-site system. And just one more point too, you had talked about a half acre or the word half acre, but then you also said prime real estate. 95% of these are laid in easements. So as soon as you come off of whatever the street would be, when you turn onto the road of the development, the cisterns are usually within the first 20 to 30 feet on the left or on the right, and they're on the opposite side of a guardrail, really buried in the woods off the road.
So in a development like where Paul lives, with
28.
28 houses, and there's two other lots?
10 swimming pools.
No.
Huh? There's
Two
only
other-
2 lots left up there now.
So if those 2 lots came, you don't have town water, or do you?
No.
So if the 2 lots came, we might want to consider, but if they're individual,
No, this would be for new development. This would be, someone's
Not
putting in a
that
new
somebody's gonna
road
add a
and
lot
10 new
here.
houses.
Yeah.
This would be part of the infrastructure similar to the road.
With one
And-
that doesn't have water.
Correct. And I want to go back and to sort of touch on what the chief was saying. This is something that could be theoretically on a lot within an easement adjacent to the road, correct? I mean, it's not going, if someone mows their lawn over it, it's not going, they're not going to damage it.
Yeah, I mean, I can show you plenty of examples where these pipes terminate, and the people who own a particular house, you know, they kind of maintain it. It's really right adjacent to their
Yeah,
lot. They
yeah.
maintain it, so yes.
Okay.
Cut the lawn and
So
everything.
yeah, but
Well,
trim the
so
bushes.
you're not necessarily losing real estate by
No.
installing
and,
it.
and
It's,
I've never known, you know, prior to coming to Auburn, we had no municipal water where I came from. So
Mhm.
this is the world that that we lived from fire protection, and I've never seen a cistern installed on prime real estate.
Well, it
I've never
says,
seen
it says here that the
Which section?
cistern has to be within 1,400 feet of the furthest house.
No, it's-
What what
Okay.
number are you on?
yeah, oh, B,
be
1B.
on the first page.
And that 1,400 feet is based on the amount of hose that we carry. We carry 1,500 feet of large diameter hose on the engine. So the 1,400 feet is to ensure that we have enough hose to make the stretch.
I mean, there's certain questions. I mean, I've read every paragraph of this thing, and I was just trying to think of the ones that should be addressed, and the one that stuck out. A couple that stuck out. One was the surety, and the other one was the cost of actually putting one of these things together.
And putting it next to someone's house. I wouldn't want it next to my house.
Well, and again, I mean, there's hundreds of examples of where these don't affect property. Like I said, most of these are within the first 30 feet of the road. They're on the opposite side of the guardrail. You don't even know. That.
Well, it looks
Put
like
a
and
new
for-
development in, if we're starting a new subdivision,
Yeah.
there's plenty of area to pick from to
Correct.
put it. If it needed 3, we can space them. The developer's gonna be,
And the
he knows he
developer's
might
going to
have
be
to do
keen
it.
on putting them in a place that's going to
When he knows he's
maximize
gonna
the
do it,
potential.
he's gonna pick where it won't bother the other things, and it'll be,
Right.
And I
and
actually,
we're gonna approve it.
I find it interesting that you wouldn't want it next to your house, because oftentimes people like to have a house that has a hydrant in front of it, and that actually reduces some insurance rates. So And not that, I mean, it's sort of a personal preference sort of thing, but
Yeah.
it's, having this next to your house is in effect no different than having a hydrant there. I mean, other than it's a tank, but,
Ever had a fire? I have. My mother had to jump out a third floor window. And the house, I would rather have had it burn all the way down to the ground than just have it damaged with the water damage and the fire damage.
Oh, it
Because it
doesn't-
cost me twice as much to fix it.
It doesn't,
Has to rebuild it.
you know that, it doesn't number once you hit a house with
But I-
10,000 gallons of water.
but I also
It
think
doesn't.
this isn't necessarily about the structure that's on fire, it's also about the surrounding structures, and if we're in an area that's unwatered, it's also about the surrounding wildlands, which can easily catch fire and easily get out of control. I mean, I only know what I know from having seen brush fires, but I'm sure the chief can expand on what the damage of that could be.
Well, I think the point here is that the points that the board raised, they're taken. But at the end of the day, we still have to put the fire out, regardless of how big it is and whether the property's a total loss. I'm looking to ensure that we're doing it in the safest way possible by keeping tankers off the road with a tanker shuttle. I'm trying to contain it as close to the proximity of the incident as possible. That's really the driving
Now,
force.
on this 20,000 gallon tank, can a builder buy this $20,000 tank already pre-made and then drop it in a hole?
I could call tomorrow and have one of these delivered to my lot tomorrow.
Okay.
They're precast, they're sitting on a lot somewhere.
I've never seen one, so that's
They're-
why I'm asking this question.
They're
right?
extremely similar to septic tanks. They come in 2 or 3 pieces.
Mhm.
You put the base in, and it's a bowl. There's I'm assuming there's a rubber membrane
Yep,
where the
they-
two
they-
pieces
They put
meet.
the first piece down, the rubber membrane is on the bottom, it folds over.
Yep.
The second piece goes on, the membrane continues, the third piece comes on, and then the cap.
Oh,
So it's like the holding tank for a septic system.
Well, you showed some, like, prefab fiberglass.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're unfortunately this thing is being.
They're
yeah.
concrete,
Yeah, I had
they're
pictures of the
poly.
This looks like a
Yeah.
pill. I mean, it's a.
Now, what's the cost of something like that in fiberglass or plastic?
I've seen very few fiberglass ones. The majority, I would say 95% of the ones that I've seen installed are precast concrete
Concrete.
with the rubber liner. It's the cheapest way to go.
Because the gas tanks use those. Right.
Yeah, they use the
Yep.
double-walled saline filled,
Yeah.
correct?
Right. And again, like I said, as it's pointed out in number 1 here, we're talking about developments with 8 houses or more. So if somebody's even coming in looking to put 6 houses or 7 houses, we're not even having this conversation.
Well, how much of our commercial property is not on water system?
2% maybe.
Yeah, it's low. It's
Where would
low.
it be?
Like down on West Tech Drive, is that got town water?
Yes, West Tech has water. And again, really, as Adam and I have kind of looked at this map, we're talking about Rochdale Street.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking
We're talking,
this area is really the 2 main areas that we're talking about that potentially have land where people will be wanting to install houses and either don't have infrastructure for water or the magnitude of the development would be beyond what Auburn Water thinks that they could reasonably supply in the short term without some additional source.
But all the commercial property along 2012,
all has public.
All
Yeah, I
has
mean,
public
even,
water.
even all of the dense residential.
the only thing
through-
we don't have
through-
is gas, because we got mad at the gas company.
And that does crop up from time to time, and certain areas have it and certain areas don't.
Okay, so where do we go from here on this thing? I mean, this is a discussion right now.
Correct. It's an initial discussion. This ultimately will need a public hearing because we're going to look to fold it into the rules and regulations. There was discussion at this time last year about bringing back the rules and regulations this year and continuing the increase in fees to the full original proposal. I don't know if that's still on the table. I sort of held off on that because I knew the chief was putting this together, and I figured if we're going to have a public hearing, we may as well do it all at once. I think Eric's putting together a development guide and has identified some other minor inconsistencies that we'll correct when we come back and add this along. I know that neither John or Wendy are here, unfortunately, but I don't know if the board wants to put together a list of questions and concerns. And I know that there was a good discussion tonight, maybe have the chief respond to those specifically, so that he can provide examples if there's something that the board needs an example of. And then we can sort of finalize some language and insert it into the rules and regs and have a public hearing maybe in the early fall.
Yeah.
I mean, is that,
Well, each of us would have to put the questions we have down individually. We
Yeah.
can't meet together,
No.
because then we'd be arrested.
or I mean, you know, if that's the course you want to take, we can set aside a discussion at the next meeting. The chief doesn't necessarily need to come. We can put together, we can talk about it as a board. I can write a memo over to the chief with the general questions laid out. He can make a response to that. We can have him back maybe early August, nail all that stuff down, finalize the language, and then go forward.
Yeah,
Is
I
that-
think Jonathan and Wendy should be included in this, and they're not here, of course, so.
Through the,
You pretty much answered some of the questions that I had. I honestly thought that they were going to have to put some kind of a well in to maintain
no,
the level of this, but you say no, so.
through the chair. I will just say that Mr. Weaver, this is actually the second draft that the planning board has received. After the first draft went out, Mr. Weaver sent me an email. He had about 8 or 9 bullet points that he had concerns with. All 8 or 9 of Mr. Weaver's concerns were addressed in this second draft that went back to the planning board.
And so, I mean, if you want to carry this discussion on and include the other 2 members and make sure that
Oh,
they're
of course we do. We
they're
don't-
comfortable, and then we can see if there's additional questions, and
Sure.
if not, if there's no change to the language, then the chief and I can circle around and figure out a time that's...
We'll let them be included in another
Yeah.
meeting. We'll make some questions individually.
Yep.
And then come back.
Well, just the fact that the size of that 20,000 gallon tank, I mean, who would realize that a 20,000 gallon tank is only going to be as big as this table, or a little bit
Yeah,
bigger than the
yeah.
table? I mean,
Mhm.
you can't visualize that. You know what I mean? That's something that I had no idea it would be that small.
What is it, 7.2 gallons per cubic foot or something like that? I forgot. I was an
I
engineer.
know it's
should
eight. I
remember
know
that.
it's 8 pounds per gallon. All right, where are we going?
Where are we going? One thing, Adam, I talked to you about this before, is getting an alternate member for the planning board. It has to go into the town charter.
I believe that that's a charter item.
Yeah, so how would we approach something
Are
like
you all
that?
set with me, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you
you very
very
much for
Hey,
your
yeah,
time.
thanks for coming in.
Thank you, chief.
Take care.
I'll be in touch tomorrow.
Very good.
Well, there would need to be a charter review committee,
Yeah.
and it would have to be part of what the charter review committee proposes for the charter alteration.
And that would open up a whole can of worms.
As
You know, it's
as
really,
any
you
charter
know
review
something though,
does.
Paul's right. It's really an alternate member
Look
for
at tonight.
the,
Actually, we have 3 people here tonight. I talked to my doctor an hour ago, and she wanted me to go to the emergency room. And I told her, no, I'm not gonna do it tonight. I said, I'll go tomorrow morning, so.
so anyway, I mean, it's a good thing to have, it would be a good thing to have an alternate.
And again, I mean, like I said, it's a
How
char-
do you feel about that?
I'm not opposed to an alternate. My only, and it's not even an issue, my thought on alternates is you have to find 1 more or 2 more people who are going to come every other week, and they may or may not participate. So it's sometimes a hard sell for people. Do you want to join this committee? Sure. All right, you're going to sit over there in the corner, and
Have a good
you don't
time.
really have any impact.
Well, if we
Until
got
we need
prior
you to have an
notice,
impact.
well, if we got prior notice from members, okay,
Mhm.
that they weren't gonna show up, at that point in time, we could call for the alternate.
Well, but the issue would be,
You don't always know.
Yeah.
you know, I didn't know Wendy wasn't going to be here till 5 o'clock, and I heard from John at 2:45.
That's a problem.
You know, and John, I understand, has been busy. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
a newborn has needs, and a wife who just gave birth has needs. That's understandable. I don't know what happened with Wendy. She just sent me a message and said, I'm not going to be able to make it. So, but if, let's say we had a hearing tonight that had been continued, and you were at the point where you were going to wrap it up, and Wendy and John had been here for the previous 2 hearings, and we have an alternate who hadn't been, and you call them in, they can't participate. So that's why they need to come to every
That's an
meeting,
issue.
Yeah.
so that they
Yeah.
understand how the board does their procedure, and they can record presence at any hearing and step in at the time if necessary. So I think it's a reasonable idea. I think that to get one, I mean, you're probably 12 to 18 months away if you started a charter review right now. And,
Wow.
you know, I think, like Paul
Well,
said,
at least we know.
Yeah, well, you got people that would open up a can of worms, that's the problem.
We got to vote on the minutes?
Yeah, why
Correct.
don't we vote on the minutes for,
at 13 May, there was no vote for the 8 April meeting.
okay,
And,
so we gotta do both of them.
correct, and you didn't have the minutes for 13 May last.
Okay, so why don't we
Meeting.
vote for Tuesday rather, May 13th, 2014 minutes?
I make a motion to accept them.
Okay, seconded?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Accepted. And then the other set of minutes are,
May.
what is it? June
No,
6th?
it was May.
April 8.
April, what?
April 8.
Okay, April, oh yeah, okay, April 8th. All right, so I would entertain a motion with the minutes from April 8th
I make a motion to accept the minutes from April 8th.
as written.
Second.
Seconded, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Minutes are accepted, okay.
I make a motion to adjourn.
That's a good
Second.
one. I like that one.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.